Hey guys, welcome. Super excited to have everybody here. I'm gonna wait till everybody trickles in, and I would love for you guys to tell us where you're joining us from today. I see folks from all around the world. Always super exciting to tune in. And today we have actually a very special guest, which is Lisa, one of my students who just reached 200K in sales in about a year and 3 months. So I'm super excited for you. This
Thank
calls
you,
for
Lynn.
like this calls for a celebration.
Yeah, it seems like a huge goal for me to achieve and realize.
And
Yeah,
so the beautiful thing is that it took you about 8 months, 8 to 9 months to reach your first 100K, right?
yeah, yeah. And then
And
it's just kind of like been snowballing.
yeah, and now it's been snowballing. And so it's amazing. Like you made 100K in just a couple months.
Yeah, when I reached 100K, I thought like, oh my gosh, what? Like that just seemed so unbelievable, especially like I've been trying with print on demand for a long time before this, before Etsy. And so when I reached 100K so quickly with you, I just thought like, wow, like the sky is the limit now. Like this is so cool.
Yeah, and now it's happening even quicker. You're like, what's happening? And so I would love for you to share kind of like your journey. And also, I know
Yeah.
folks are gonna be asking me, I see it already, like um what you're selling in the store. So kind of why don't you just like start with your journey to kind of give people some insights as to where you got started versus where you are today?
Okay, so I'm a mom, I have two kids, and when I first had my son, I just really didn't want to be away from him. I wanted to be home. So my journey kind of started of like trying to find something that I could do from home and, quit my day job so I could raise my kid. But I tried some things that didn't work. And then I came across Shine On and I started a Shopify store and did the tried Facebook and driving traffic, and I had a little bit of sales, but like it was so over my head. It was really overwhelming. I had a coach. Like I took a lot of time and energy effort into it and got like not really anywhere. It was kind of defeating. And then I found at Luna on Shine On talking, like answering all these questions. I'm like, oh, this person really seems to be offering a lot of value. Like maybe I should just try Etsy and see how it goes for me. And with print on demand coupled with Etsy, like it was just a winning combination for me once I had Luna's like magic touch. It was so good. So I'm so grateful.
Yay. I love that. Yeah, so you started selling Shine On Etsy, but then you ended up transitioning per my direction. I told you like you need to start adding other products.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And that's when it was really good to add other things in for my store.
you're selling all print on demand.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that about like what you teach is just not to like put yourself into one niche or one category, like to really see what works for like each individual, because what works for someone else is not going to work for me, and like you can really find what works. Like it's yeah, that was really neat to see.
Right. And so that's the thing that I really try to explain to folks is that you need to have a general store when starting out because you're not going to have data as to what niche has potential at the beginning and it's all trial and error. And the
Yeah.
beauty of Etsy is that your listing's your website. And if you need to rebrand, it's not the end of the world. And so that's actually doing you a disservice when you're pigeonholing yourself with this idea that, oh, this niche is going to do well, because a lot of time, especially when you're a newbie, you have zero data. And that's probably how you started when you were trying on your own,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I felt so much freedom with your style because I was just like able to try different things, and like I didn't feel like what I was doing had to be perfect. Like you just kept saying like you're gonna get data as you go. So like and you're gonna learn as you go. And it was just really freeing from the perfectionist mindset that I had started with, where now I was shifting to a growth mindset, which really serves me well now.
So yeah, and I would love for you to add what your roadblocks were as a beginner, because I think as beginners, like people feel like they're applying the right strategies without realizing that they're not. So can you explain about that process and what the transition was for you?
Mhm. Once I was started working with you, you kind of pointed out to me that my designs needed more work, and then I realized like, oh my gosh, yes, they do. Like I started looking at the successful stores on Etsy and comparing what I was putting out to what they were doing, and it's like, of course they're not buying my stuff. Like this stuff, my cards or my designs like are not looking up to par. So you helped me work through that, and that really made a difference.
And you're not a designer, you're using Canva.
No, no, and yeah, you kind of have to like work at it to build your eye, because what I thought, like I really thought what I was listing looked good, like I really did, and then you trained me, like, and I developed a better eye as we've gone on. But it's, yeah, like I didn't have any training. I'm trying to do the font pairings and figure out the details, and it's an overwhelming picture at first, I guess, and you have to kind of practice it to get better and know where to
Right,
look. Yeah.
right. Yeah, but I mean, also a lot of the stuff that you do is not necessarily like, I wouldn't say it's like, oh, you're needing to have like special design skills,
No,
right?
it's simple. It's simple.
Yeah. So overall, like throughout your journey, so you realized, okay, I need help with design, but then what were some of the other elements that you felt really helped you go from being stuck to start getting sales?
Well, like your coaching program, your roadmap made all the difference for me, because I didn't know what I should be listing, what products to focus on, like how to kind of just even like focus my attention on one thing long enough to make it happen for me. Like I was kind of just looking back, I was all over the place and thinking like, I like this, so I'm going to list that. Like, oh, I'm into this, that looks cool, I think that's funny. Like there was not really a method to what I was doing before. But once I had your course to guide me, it was like now there was a system behind what I was doing. So when it just made all the difference for me, because I could know that the time spending at my computer was actually going to result in something, instead of it just being time away from my family or time away from something else. Because that's what it felt like when I wasn't getting results. It was just, I'm spending hours at my computer every day. I'm like starting to feel really guilty about it because I'm missing things, or, just you get that mom guilt, and not really seeing any results. My husband's starting to say like, all right, like maybe we should move on here. Like, what are you doing? You have a good job, just do your job, and let's just have a normal life here. But when I had the like belief and faith that I could make it happen because I had you in my corner, like I wasn't giving up. Like I knew what I was doing was going to pay off, and that was huge.
And you know what? I think that's actually what most people struggle with, especially when they start out with Etsy, is that they start believing that Etsy is the problem because they're not
Mhm.
seeing results. But what they're not realizing is that they aren't uploading the right kind of listings. So it's almost like they're spinning their wheels, unfortunately. And you're
Mhm.
right. It's like you'd have to be mad to be continuing to
Yeah.
upload without getting any results. And that's why it's so important to have a community, right?
Yeah,
And folks who've actually done it to tell you like, no, this is part of the journey, and you have to have a business mindset, an
yeah,
analytical business mindset, in order
yeah.
to understand what you're doing wrong and how to change the course, right?
I believe that.
So,
Yeah.
what would you recommend to someone who's like getting started and like, in that beginning stage of like feeling completely overwhelmed?
Honestly, just take Luna's course. Like she is like when I found Luna, I found her on Facebook, and then I got directed over to her TikTok for some reason. And then I went down the rabbit hole of all her videos, and I was like blown away by the value that you gave on there. Like I learned so much from your TikToks that my like 2 years before of trying to figure things out on my own with Shine On, and even with a coach. Like I had no idea about like just the resources and everything that you provided there. I'm like, what? Like so many light bulbs went off. And I'm like, if this is what's happening on her TikTok, then I need to be in this person's course. Like I just knew it that you were going to be exactly what I needed. And it was so true. So your course was so well laid out, it had all the steps. And like I completely believe like why figure it out for myself? Like I tried to figure it out for myself and I wasn't getting anywhere. And then you just gave me the roadmap. And it was
Yeah.
like such a relief.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing, right? Like Etsy seems like it's easy and it is beginner friendly, most definitely, because unlike Shopify, you don't need to figure out how to have a good landing page. You don't need to do Facebook ads. You don't
Yeah.
need to do Etsy ads, like none of that, right?
Yeah.
But while it seems easy, there's a lot of knowledge that goes, I would almost say it's like you're building a database. You're building a database of understanding what people are into, and that's the hardest thing to crack.
Yeah.
And it's a
Totally.
muscle, right? So now, obviously, now you have that skill set. That's why your 100K, like you did it in just your additional 100K that you just did now and reached 200K, like you did that in a couple of months because now you
Yeah.
already have the skill set of understanding what has potential
Yeah.
versus when you're
Honestly,
starting out.
I felt like a slow learner when I started your class because there was like people that were, already getting sales and I was like, what's wrong with me? Like, but it took me like probably 6 weeks to even get my first sale. But it was just like I just had to figure out. You just said like you just have to crack it. You just have to get like it just has to click. And I remember you kept saying that, and I'm like, I believe you, but like, what am I doing wrong? And then all of a sudden, I'm just like, oh, I was doing so many things wrong. But like, thank goodness I had you to and your course to, like keep coming back to and then like I just had to keep watching and processing. Like I feel like maybe I'm a slow processor sometimes, but
No,
once I got it, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I not just get it? But like, I think that's just a lot of us need repetition
right.
and able to talk to the community and have each other's support and build our mindset and all these things that kind of come together that need to come together.
Right. And also, it's so important to stay consistent.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big deal for me. Because now when I started your course, I had two kids, um, like little kids who need a lot of attention. And I want to give them that attention. So I decided I have to get up at 5 o'clock every morning. I have to do my research. I have to do my listings before they wake up. So I had like a work session from like 5 to 7 or 7:30 or whatever time I was able to, get to before they were getting up and needing me. And then I would usually work again in the evening and maybe during a nap time or something if I could. Like, just had to make it work with the schedule and stay consistent and have my goal of, okay, I'm going to do like X amount of listings this week. And there's not going to be like an excuse. I have to get these done no matter what. And like, just sticking with what I said I was going to do was a big deal for me because I feel like I had to show up for myself and I had to make sure that I did it and put that like as a priority, which is like a hard thing to do sometimes. So I was
Yeah,
happy
absolutely.
to build that muscle too.
I think that's probably the hardest part too, right? People understanding that even though, yes, it starts as a side hustle, it has to become a real business. And the way that
Yeah.
it becomes a real business is by building that consistency. Because at the beginning, it's like anything, right? It's hard to sit down in front of a computer to work on this because, especially like, we don't know what we're doing at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
But once you start building the muscle and start figuring out, okay, this is what I need to do, XYZ, then it becomes much easier to put in the time. And
Yeah.
also, I remember you telling me that at the beginning you felt like you were kind of going crazy, right?
Hmm. Yeah, in so many ways. There was like my husband is so supportive now, but he wasn't at first because he just didn't see it working out. Um, and I was spending so much time like trying to figure this out, and then it was I just had so much work to do on my mindset. Like I just had to figure out how to believe in myself. And honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do that without you, because you kept on telling me like you have to just believe it, you have to be confident. And like I remember crying because I'm like, I don't like, why can't I just feel that? But like it took you having that confidence in me for me to be able to believe it in myself, which was like, I guess, a huge reason why a coach is so important, because it's probably a lot of us have tried a lot of different things and not succeeded. So it's easy not to have that belief, even though we want to believe. Like I must have known deep down, like there's a reason I keep signing up for these things. There's a reason I keep trying, but I was also used to failing. So it was very
Right.
important to me to have you telling me like, you got this, like I'm here, we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. That's actually such a valid point because I went through that too, actually,
Yeah.
where I didn't believe that I was capable of making it happen. And it's not till I met other people who were extremely successful that it
Mhm.
completely changed my mindset of what was possible. Because it's true, like when you're not in that world and it's very removed from you, like
Yeah.
when I get comments of like it's a scam, I get it because people are completely removed from that world and they're unfortunately inside the matrix and they think that the only way they can earn money is by having a job. They
Yeah.
don't understand that there's actually so many opportunities to earn a living online. Like to them, it seems like complete woo-woo, right? But it's not till you actually
Yes.
are, right? It sounds completely insane when you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I make money
Oh my
online. It's
gosh.
like, what? But
I
like,
ordered so many samples from Shine On, trying to be like, is this real? Like, is this really going to happen if I do this? Are people going to get a product?
yeah, yeah, I could see
It's
that
so
because
weird.
you weren't in that world. It wasn't like you weren't part of that
No.
world. So like same, I mean, for me it was a little different because I was part of like the startup scene in New York, so I knew about like digital marketing and whatnot, but like when I stumbled upon e-commerce and affiliate and just like met actual people who were successful in that world, it completely changed my mindset. And I know I'm trying to talk a
Yeah.
lot about mindset and people don't realize the importance of it uh, because if you think that you're going to fail, you're going to fail. Versus if you go in with this
Yeah.
attitude, I'm capable of making 100K, which sounds so easy. Like we can say it out loud, but deep down, we don't believe it. Right. And if you don't believe
No.
it deep down, which is the hardest part, it's not going to happen. And that's why I was like telling you, like, you have to listen to mindsets videos, you have to like meditate,
Oh
which
yeah.
sounds so corny, but it also helped me, completely helped me.
My favorite.
It
Yeah.
makes all the
When
difference.
I started with, I was like convincing myself, if I just have to make 3 sales a day, do I think that's possible? Can I make 3 sales a day? And like that's what I was trying to convince myself of. And I'm like, I've come such a long way since then because of all the mindset stuff that you've shown me, and like the different books and the meditation stuff. Like I love meditating now. I do that every day,
Yeah,
and
because
I'm all about that stuff.
it sets your mind because it's very easy to go into
Yeah.
these like negative spirals when things are not
Yeah.
working out for us and thinking that,
Yeah.
well, because our brain is really good at about staying safe, right? And not
Yeah.
wanting a challenge. And as a result, it's really easy for us to go into these like negative spirals. And so meditation is a good way to stay in check and help our
Yeah.
mind like get through the roadblocks. Because a lot of time it's self-sabotage.
For sure. For sure. Now I'm just looking for all the ways to get around that and like get out of my own way. And I find meditation is a big one.
So for someone who's starting out, because I hear this a lot, Luna, I just feel like all the products look alike. Etsy feels like extremely saturated. I don't even know where I would get started. Um, I mean, what would you reply to
Yeah.
them?
if you take Luna's course, you'll see how you can make these things that look alike, not look anything like anybody else's, and sell a lot of stuff. Because that's like literally what your like magic sauce is, I think. Like you're showing us how to differentiate ourselves in amongst all these things and really stand out instead of just going and copying what's already been done. And like, yeah, I was worried in the beginning, like, am I going to be able to do that? Like, I don't feel like I'm a creative person. Um, but you like, I love how you show like the steps to do it. It's not like this, you have to be creative and you have to think yourself an artist. Like, you're like, no, there's a method to this. There's a method to it, and I'll teach it to you and I'll show you exactly how to do it. And you do. And it's so cool. It's like I've shifted from thinking like one, putting myself in a box to being like, oh, that was just something I created for myself that I don't need to, like, that doesn't serve me. I don't need to have that anymore. Because
Yeah,
you're how to get out of that
yeah.
and
Yeah,
stand
because
out.
you're
And
right. I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, but I'm not creative, and thinking that they have to be
yeah,
creative. And it's like, it's actually not
yeah,
creative. It's like you're almost like a data scientist. You look at data and then
yeah.
you come up with your own recipe based on data.
But the way that Etsy positions itself, it's like it's it didn't feel like I could be a seller of Etsy stuff because of the way I saw myself. I didn't see myself as um, creative enough or funny enough or like snarky enough or whatever, like the products that you see selling on Etsy are like so great, like people,
Clever.
they're
Yeah.
really amazing products.
Yeah.
But like with your method, it's like, oh, I can do this, like, and you can stand out. So it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And like for people who are thinking, oh, I want to try Shopify because I haven't had any luck with Etsy or like TikTok shop, what would you tell them?
I'd say um, if you haven't had any luck with Etsy yet, then stick with Etsy, because going to Shopify is like much harder. As somebody who's started on Shopify, it was like I spent a lot of money trying to get traffic to things, and then you you just to find out that they're not very good. So like stay on Etsy where the traffic is free and just work on creating better listings and getting sales there first, because it's
Right.
way cheaper.
Right. And
And
that's
maybe
why,
invest that money instead in course.
right. Because that's why I tell people Etsy's so much better. Because the problem is most folks, when they get started, they don't know what's going to get them sales. And so instead of doing it
Yeah,
by spending money on TikTok ads or Facebook ads, or with TikTok shop, you have to like drive traffic through doing videos. So instead of putting all that work, which is actually more advanced, you need to refine one thing. It's like one step
yeah,
at a time. You have to lay the foundation. So understand what
yeah,
classifies as a good listing. So then you can build upon that.
yeah. Like the best thing that you told me was just pick one product and just do listings on that until you get sales. And then that was like opened up my just ability to be more creative with those listings and to really like hone in on what I needed to work on to get just even my first sale, because it was just, I don't have to be worried about like, how do I upload this? How do I connect that? Like, it was just, okay, I've done that work once. Now I can just focus on making, like, if it's a message card, a million message cards for this one thing until I find what works for me, like what design, whatever, what kind of message. And then like that was such a shift because and saved me so much time, because once I was just able to focus on one thing, like, and just do it over and over. When I sat down on my computer, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this 5 times today. And then I knew exactly what I was doing and I just did it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It took out a lot of the
exactly.
thinking process.
Because I think that's the other thing.
Hmm.
People tend to overcomplicate it because they're jumping around too much from one product to the other when thinking like
Yeah.
the issues the product, when in reality, they should be focused. So you can have a general store with multiple kind of products in it, but it's important to stick to one thing at a time in order for your uploading process to be easy, because then you already have the templates, everything's already set up, so it's going to be much faster
Yeah.
for you to find that winner versus when you're jumping around, it's just too much. too many metrics that you have to deal with, and it's like going to
Yeah.
feel even more discouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also think, just to go back, like I tried Etsy before you, and I tried it with different coaches as well. Like I paid for courses, and just because those didn't work doesn't mean that I couldn't figure out Etsy. Like I saw potential. It's just like it just hadn't clicked yet. I just hadn't found what was going to work for me. And then like you just have to keep faith, and like if you're thinking about joining Luna, like I just do it. Like you will not be sorry. The course was so different from any other Etsy stuff I had learned. And like I'm so glad I didn't give up on Etsy and just go. I don't even know what I would have done after that, but like it's
Yeah.
Shopify, TikTok, all that stuff, like it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. No, and you're right. It's true. A lot of people reach out to me and they have concerns because they've like bought other Etsy courses and it just didn't work
Mm.
out for them and whatnot. And I get that. But you're right. My method is completely different from anybody
Yeah.
else. I'm almost a little controversial because I tell people like forget SEO, right? Like I
Yeah.
like spending so much time on SEO, especially as a beginner, is a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my method is very different. I'm also very hands-on. I actually care about my students versus a lot of other folks out there.
Yeah.
Um, and that's why actually like there's been so many I mean, that's why there's so many successful students inside the community.
Yeah.
Uh, and I've had folks tell me too, like, oh my God, like I tried so many other things and it finally clicked with you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think
I
like
love
so
that.
many of us had tried and tried, and like, yeah, like the biggest thing that I love about like Etsy and my journey in e-commerce has just been how I've changed. Like I know like I can do whatever now. Like I don't have to quit. I'm not a quitter anymore. Like I can do whatever I want. And like I know that. So it's exciting, and like I just want that for everybody, because it's tough to like find your place. And I don't know, like it's so cool that you are helping so many of us, like yes, make money, but also just like build a different identity and like figure out our place in the world. Like I don't have to go to a day job anymore. Like I'm thinking of life on a whole different like plane. Like oh, I'm gonna take my kids and we're going, and my husband, he can come. We're gonna go work and live in a different place for a couple months, and then we're gonna go to another place, and it's gonna be like such a fun life now,
Yeah.
instead of like just what I was kind of signed up for when I had kids. And I'm like, I can change. I can do this whatever I want now.
I love that. You're right. That's true. You do become a different person. It's like a different
Yeah,
identity. Because when we're starting out this entrepreneurial journey, um, and like we don't know if it's going to work out and whatnot, like especially at the very, very beginning, what makes all the difference is how you show up for yourself.
yeah,
And once you build that confidence, and that's why it's so important to be part of a community and, have access to a coach. Like, I mean, for me, it took me a really long time and I regret it. I was like super stubborn. If I would have had a coach earlier on in my
mhm,
career, like I would have seen results much faster, but I was super stubborn. So when you're stubborn, the price you pay is time, right? So, I mean, it's just,
yeah,
goes hand in hand. And by all means, like entrepreneurship is not a linear journey, right? Like it's okay to go back to working full time and then pressing pause and whatnot. But like if you want to see results, like consistency is the key, not giving up and having the determination to make it happen and knowing that it's possible. And that's why
yeah,
being around people who are sharing their screenshots and telling you that it's possible fuels your ambition, and
yeah,
it's something that is not talked about enough because then it's almost like it unlocks your brain. I remember during Christmas, it was so much fun because everybody inside our community was like, I gotta sell. Oh my God, I had the biggest week. And it was almost like driving everyone, like people who hadn't been active, like came back out of the woodworks and
yeah.
like it ended up having such amazing results. So that's something that, is not to be forgotten as well, right?
Oh, I absolutely love the community, because
Mhm.
it's cool. Like in my my real life, I don't know anyone that does e-commerce.
Right.
I have not met one person. It's I don't know if people just don't want to share it out loud or what, but like I don't know a single human who works from on Etsy or Shopify or anything. So it's so nice that you provide us with a community of like-minded people who get it, like who understand what I'm doing and I can understand what they're doing. Like so many little conversations have happened that it was like really like perked me up or like just helped me move forward through something because I'm like they get it and I get them and like this is cool. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's just nice.
I love
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. So what would you say to someone who's just like, okay, I want to make this happen. Like what are the steps? Like any last thoughts you want to share?
I think like you just have to put aside whatever's happened up until now and just trust that if you like I want to say like go with Luna that you it'll happen for you. Like you have to I know it's like, oh well, I've spent this money on this course and like these things didn't work out for me. Like I was reading a book. I remember sending you the screenshot or like the moment in this book that I was reading that was like the reason that I decided to take your course because I was like you're a badass at making money and that was the book I was reading because I was trying so hard to like get over all these roadblocks that I was putting up for myself and it was like you have to keep believing or like just you have to like no matter what's happened before like just go for it. You have to keep trying. You don't fail until you quit. So I
That's so
really
true.
like that. Yeah,
That's
you
so
don't fail until you
true.
quit and you just need the tools.
That's so
Yeah.
true. And people don't realize. So actually Alex Hormozy, who's really well known in the digital world, he built like eight figure business. He talked about that. And I can actually attest. So he said that to make his first 100K, he lost a $10,000. To make his first
Mhm.
$1 million, he lost 100K. And not, I mean, I shouldn't use the word lost because it's never lost, right? Like think about frivolous purchases we've made around our lives, right?
Yeah.
Um, that might have not been justified, right? Whether it's like a trip or whatever that is, and or or just like, I mean, I know some folks, in our community don't necessarily even have the means. I totally get it. But at the end of the day, it's like an investment in yourself. So people pay ten thousands of dollars to go to college. And when you
Yeah.
get out of college, like they give you a little nice diploma, but they don't even really guarantee you're ever going to have a job,
No.
right? And yet nobody's protesting after universities, right? Like I want my money back versus a course and the coaching program, like essentially what you're doing is that you're part of a community, you're working with folks who've already done it, and sometimes it clicks and sometimes it doesn't, right? Like I've done courses where it didn't click and but it helped me when I did another course, right? Like
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's important to do your research, make sure that the person you're working with is reputable and has authority, um, etc., right? But I would say in general, like it's money that you're gonna make back, right? I mean,
Yes.
you like 200x'd.
Yeah. I love when people are like, "Oh, my ROI on Luna's program." Like, "Oh, yeah, like if I was a mathematician, I would figure that out for myself." But it would be impressive, I'm sure. Like way better than my investments in other
Yeah.
areas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you 200 R like your RI was like 200 plus.
That's crazy.
So, and I mean, folks who are inside my membership also see results. Obviously not as big because they don't have access to the course, but like someone recently reached out to me. It's funny, her name is also Lisa.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh my God, I only was in the membership for a month and I'm already making like 800." She made like $800 in 1 month, you know? So like
Nice.
imagine that kind of ROI. But I mean, so
Yeah.
overall, like you have to ask yourself how bad you want it, right? That's the first question. Like, how bad do you want it? And then once you realize that, yeah, you want to change your life around, then you have to like show up and take accountability. I
Yeah.
always love to give the analogy of like, fitness, uh, because we understand that when it comes to fitness, in order to go from a certain level to another, it does take some form of discipline, right? Like whether it's waking up earlier to go to the gym, like having a cleaner diet, whatever that's involved. So the same thing goes with business. And like you don't stop halfway through and like think, okay, like this is in vain. Like if you're not getting results, it doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. It's just a matter of like continuing and being consistent. And the same
Yeah.
happens like in a fitness journey. Like you always hear people saying like from one moment to the next, like, oh my God, I was like plateaued at the same weight. And then in 2 weeks, they like shed everything off. So the same applies with Etsy, right? It
Yeah.
took you said 6 weeks to get your first sale, but then I mean, things are moving faster and faster now because you have all that knowledge, accumulated knowledge, and
Yeah.
now it's easier for you to apply that knowledge to know what's going to get sales.
Yeah. I think for people that are starting out too, like really knowing your why, because it does, if it's going to take a while to get your first sale, like knowing why you're sitting there, why it matters to you is so important. Like, and if you have maybe like a partner that's not super supportive or doesn't quite understand, like you need to cling onto that. And like for me, it was like, I need to show my kids that I can follow my dreams. Like, I'm not happy in my day job. I need to show them that no matter what, I figured out a way to follow my dreams because that's what I would want
Mhm.
for them. I don't want them to live a life that's just okay. My life was fine, but I want them to live like their best life. And so the best way I can teach them to do that is by doing it myself. So having that why, I was able to stand up to my husband who was like just stop and tell him I'm not stopping. I am making this happen with Luna. We are doing this. And like it gave me so much power. And like I love that. And I hope that other people can like have that too. Because
I love
with
that.
you in their corner, like I'm not special. It's you are like the super coach, and I'm so grateful for you. So like
I love that.
anyone watching this, like you guys can do this too
I
with
love
Luna.
that.
Mhm.
Yay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Lisa. This was really helpful. And I can see everybody in the comments is like feeling super excited, like super pumped up with this was like a great motivational talk because I think, like you said, right? Like people in their day to day, they don't have access to people who are making it happen. They feel a
Yeah.
little siloed. They feel like the freak, right? Like
Yeah.
I can't really talk to
I
my friends
understand.
about internet marketing. I'm making money
Yeah,
online. Do you think like I'm a scam artist, right?
totally.
So this is like a
Totally. And
good
lots of times our
reminder.
friends know we've tried 100 things already and they're like, oh gosh, like another thing. So it's,
Yeah,
yeah, the community is everything. It's so important.
rolling their eyes like, oh, there you go
Yeah.
again.
Yes.
I love it. I know that's happened to me too.
Yeah.
And now they're asking me if I'm hiring.
Yes. That's gotta feel so good.
I love that.
Amazing.
I love it. Well, thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate your time. And thank you guys for joining. We'll see you.